and welcome. Today we thought it would be fun to talk about anxiety.
What is anxiety?
What is anxiety?
For me, when people ask me to define it, I'm like, I don't know. I think it's different for everyone. I think the main thing is it's different from stress. So because you can interchange it. It can be like, oh, I'm very anxious or I'm very stressed.
Yeah.
But for me, when I'm talking about like actual anxiety, it's not like stress, because stress you can kind of deal with.
Everyone has stress in their lives.
Yeah.
And you can manage your stress, whereas like anxiety, I feel like even if you have it, like it's not there all the time.
Yeah.
But like it can always come.
What is your first experience or memory
Of like general anxiety or like having a panic attack?
Yeah.
I've only ever had one real panic attack in my life. And that was when I was doing an internship at a bank.
Yeah, I remember this.
And it's good to push yourself out of your comfort zone, but there's a difference between like stepping outside of your comfort zone and like thrusting yourself out of your comfort zone.
Baby steps. You have to take baby steps when you do it.
And so like the internship just like wasn't right for me. I also just felt like there was nothing for me to do. I would just like sit and have like stacks of basically like legal document type papers to read. I just felt like I was wasting my time. And one day walking home from the internship, I just like burst into tears. And I was like in a public place and like my heart started beating really fast. I felt really shaky. I felt really jittery. I didn't know how to get home. Like I felt like I was on drugs or something.
Yeah.
And it was a terrifying, like horrible experience. And I got home and I like called my parents and I was crying and I was like, I have to quit this internship. And thankfully my parents totally supported me. But if I had been in the kind of situation where I hadn't been able to do that, like I don't know what I would have done, because just the thought of going back like was just like the worst thing in the world at that time. And I was also dealing with like a lot of like other family things, and I think like those things can build up. Like
it's like, yeah, it's just like the bomb waiting to explode sometimes.
Right. So it's like if you have one really like traumatizing experience, like and you're in a healthy place, like you can deal with it, but if you have one really traumatizing experience and there's like all these other things, even if they're seemingly little things or even if they're seemingly things you're kind of dealing with already, they can like build up and take you by surprise.
When I first got this one, it was like all of a sudden I was like brushing my teeth and I was like, oh, I have to take them to the vets tomorrow. And it's not like the vets was even in like a sketchy area. It was like in a really like well off, I've been there before and stuff like that. But just the thought of going outside and having to walk him, like that's what started my panic attack. Like my heart started racing, like I was like shaking and everything, and like different scenarios started going in my head, like, oh, I'm gonna get like chased by people, or I'm gonna get like attacked, and just all these like I guess like it is irrational, but irrational like thoughts and everything just came in my head. I couldn't stop it, and I always describe like anxiety as a battle between your heart and mind, because it's like you want to do something but your mind is telling you like, no, you can't. So it's kind of like you don't have control over that. It's like your mind just takes over and you're in a kind of out-of-body experience. You see yourself and you're like, no, I want to, but you can't.
It becomes a physical thing. Like it would be one thing if your mind was telling you like, no, don't do that, and then you could just like tell yourself like, it's gonna be okay, I'm just gonna do it. But like, and it's like, it's so much harder. If you're just having a mental thing and your brain is saying like, don't go out, it's too scary, like don't do it, stay inside, then yeah, you can talk yourself into it. You can be like, no, it'll be fine, I know I'll feel better when I go, all this stuff. But if you literally like, if your heart starts racing and you just like, you need to sit down or you need to lie down, or you like involuntarily like start crying or something, like you just can't, you can't do the thing that you would want to do.
And I think for me, like the hardest thing with anxiety is trying to get other people to understand it, because it's very, I think, like if someone says like, oh, I have anxiety, that's like, it's like, I mean, yeah, everybody experiences anxiety, so it's kind of like hard, because when it's an actual like thing you have to deal with every day, it's like, oh, like I've been told like, you know, like get over it and like you can like it's nothing and it's something that you do to yourself, but it can just pop up at like anytime. It can impact like relationships, and I think like if you don't talk about it, then it just makes things worse. At least once you talk about it, then like people understand more like why you don't go to a party last minute, or why you can't get out of your house and stuff like that. And it's like, I think misconception sometimes is that like, oh, you're lazy, or like
you're snobby.
Yeah, or you're snobby, or like you're being antisocial. And it's like, for me, it's I want to be social, like heck yeah, like I want to go to that party, I want to hang out with people, but like I just can't. Like if I see people, I start freezing up, or I'll make plans, but then like as I go by, like thoughts will pop up and be like, no, you can't go, like things are gonna happen, all that stuff.
Identify your triggers.
Yeah. So mine are like traveling, especially traveling alone, social situations. So for me, with what I did for the traveling ones was I just took baby steps, and so I'm like, okay, what are places that I think I can deal with to go to? So with me, like when we went to Japan together, and I was just like, okay, like I'll plan out places that I want to go to. So then like I know like exactly like what to expect, like where we're going.
And like when we went
that.
on this trip, like we had some tour guides for
certain
things. We knew exactly what we were doing.
So like, yeah, baby steps. And then after going with her, I went again with my family, and I went alone to day trips, and so that was yet again like another baby step. So just like little things that I'm like, I'm not pushing myself too far in the limit, like my limit, but I'm like nudging.
Like with social situations, like you can start out by going with a friend.
Yeah.
Or going, I don't know, like whatever's most comfortable for you. So like go early if that's more comfortable for you. Or sometimes it's better to like know exactly who's gonna be there, so like go once everyone else is already there.
And I mean, it's hard to be like asking like, oh, who's gonna be there, because it's kind of awkward. Like, you want to call them, it's like, oh, who's gonna be there? But if they don't go, like if they don't tell you, then for me it's kind of like, if you really don't want to go, then that's like one of those situations where you have to balance out like, can I do it or can I not? But if you at least know like one person or two people, then like you try that.
It's just like good to know what you're getting into.
If you're wondering like, why isn't you saying hi? It's not like I'm being rude, it's just like, you know, like it's that anxiety's there. So sometimes irrational thoughts come to our head in social situations. It's kind of like, if someone's looking at me, sometimes I might be like, oh my god, like, do they hate me? Well, I greatly appreciate when people come up and be like, hey, how are you? Growing up, there's been signs of like my social anxiety. You know, like being the shy kid and all that stuff, that's like normal. But then as it went on, like it started to not get normal. I feel like I had a problem, but like I wouldn't know what it is because no one really told me.
Anxiety itself, like it's normal and it's not a bad thing. Like it's an unpleasant thing to deal with, but it's not a bad or wrong thing to have. If you talk about things, then they normalize and then they're less scary.
It's something that should be addressed and not just dismissed.
If you don't talk about something, it can become this like giant monster, and it can be like,
you'll just explode.
One day it will come out, but until then you can feel like you're crazy, you can feel like you have so many like huge problems, or people can take it out in different ways. Like it can turn into a really bad depression that it doesn't have to be. It can turn into like eating disorders or self-harm. Like if you don't talk about things, there's nowhere else for them to go, and they just kind of like build and build and build, whereas as soon as you talk about something, it's like releasing the pressure.
And it's healthy. The more you talk about it, I think the more you yourself get into terms with it. If you do talk about it, don't expect like the first person you go to will be like, oh yeah, no, that's okay, like this stuff, because there are some people again out there that don't get it. Like when the first person, of course, like I would go to were my parents, who at first didn't get it. Like they would say like, stop being paranoid, that's just you being, you know, ridiculous and stuff like that. So I stopped talking about it, and that just made it build up even more, to the point that when I did have my first panic attack, I called my parents and I was like mid-crying, and they were just like, you know, get over it, like stop like thinking like that, like it's ridiculous. And so I just lashed out, and I didn't mean to lash out, it just exploded like that. But that's I think that's when it got through. I'm like, well, damn, like this is something.
Yeah, like, this is real, this needs to be discussed. As people continue to talk about it, it's gonna become even more normalized.
Even though there might be some people that don't understand, you'll also find people who have the same experiences as you, who can relate to you, and then that way, like, you have like outputs and stuff like that. And even like with relationships, not even like romantic, but like any relationship, it helps because then they'll understand you better and you'll feel more comfortable with them. Because sometimes when you say like, hey, I can't go because my anxiety is acting up again, people might think that that's just an excuse. But if once they understand it, it's like, don't worry about it.
Not everyone's gonna be understanding, but it's better to figure out who those people are and like stick with the people in your life that are supportive. One thing that I did want to talk about is that negativity can actually be good sometimes. Like you're talking about your lashing out experience, like sometimes you need to experience something really bad or like go through a reaction that's really bad because it's a sign that something's wrong. And then you could like look at whatever's happening and be like, okay, what's going on in my life that like needs to change? And that isn't to say that like once you identify what's wrong, you can automatically like cure it.
Yeah, no, but like for me, you know, having that lash out and everything, like it was hard, but that's the moment made me realize like this is something that I have to deal with, like it can't go on like that.
Right.
And that's what finally made me be like, I need to go to therapy. I don't care if there's a stigma with it or whatever, it's just something that I need to try. And that just helped me come to terms like, oh my god, like it is something that has to be addressed. It can't be something that I can push away to the side forever.
Friends are great, and a lot of people try to deal with their issues by using their friends as therapists, but friends should be friends. Friends should not be therapists.
Yeah.
Therapy is there for a reason.
Yeah.
It's professional help. It's not a bad thing to get it. It doesn't mean you need anything. It doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you.
There are some things that you can't even tell your friends that you need to tell someone who doesn't know you. Yeah, no, I mean, because also it's like, you know, like when you're talking with friends, you kind of want to make them feel better and stuff like that. Depending on like your therapist or whatever, but mine like would bluntly say things to me that like my friends would never say. It's those things that like you need to hear, and it's like, oh, actually, yeah, you can literally just say whatever.
Find the kind of therapist that like works for you.
Like it's gonna be hard. Like, oh my god, it was so frustrating trying to find someone who like I suited.
It's just a way to like figure out what's going on in your head, because it's actually really hard sometimes.
Especially me, I'm an introvert, so it's like sometimes I'm just like, leave me alone, but like there's so much like
stuff going on. So
don't think therapy is bad.
Okay, I've got the noisy thing in my lap. Anyway, talking about social anxiety and being like super awkward on camera.
Social anxiety.
And it's like, oh look, other people who feel as awkward as you exist. Isn't that great?